Okay, so it is February 2026. And if you've been anywhere near, I don't know, a water cooler, a Zoom call, even just your team Slack, the whole vibe is different
Well, it's
now.
only shifted.
A couple years ago, it was all, wow, look at this cool magic trick AI can do. And now it's this low-level hum of anxiety. The question isn't, is this neat anymore? It's, is this coming for my paycheck?
That's the hangover after the hype cycle, right?
Yeah.
We've moved from novelty to deployment, and all of a sudden the theoretical starts to feel very, very personal.
Exactly, which is why I wanted to do our deep dive on this specific report today. It's from the McKinsey Global Institute called The Human-Machine Partnership, Reimagining Work for the AI Era.
A big one.
Huge. And I want to start with a number from like page 4 that I'm sure caused a few skipped heartbeats, 57%.
The automation potential.
Right. The report says 57% of current U.S. work hours could, in theory, be automated with tech that exists right now.
Not future tech. Stuff that's already here.
Yeah. And if you're listening, you hear 57% and you think, okay, half the workforce is redundant. But the core idea here is that whole man versus machine story is just wrong, isn't it?
It is. And that's the nuance we really need to get right away. That 57% is technical potential. It just means a machine can do the task. It doesn't mean the job itself vanishes.
Okay.
The report argues we're not moving toward displacement, where a robot takes your chair. We're moving toward a partnership between three different things: people, agents, and robots,
The trio.
the trio. And all the opportunity and all the friction is in how those three work together. It's not just humans using tools anymore. It's humans orchestrating things that have their own agency.
Let's break that trio down then, because the definitions here really matter. So people, obviously, that's us. Robots feels pretty clear too, but the report kind of flips the script on that.
It does. We all assume the physical, blue-collar jobs are first on the chopping block, the whole Terminator scenario.
Yeah, the factory floor.
But McKinsey is saying that's actually the hardest part to automate. It's more of X paradox. High-level reasoning, like passing a law exam, is computationally pretty cheap for an AI.
Right.
But low-level skills walking, grabbing something, folding laundry, that takes an enormous amount of computation. The physical world is just messy, and robots hate mess.
And it's expensive.
Hugely expensive.
Yeah.
The report says for a humanoid robot to really replace a human in a general setting, its price has to drop from, say, $150,000 today to something like $20,000.
Wow. That's a massive drop. We're a long way from that.
Years, maybe a decade. So, funny enough, your physical dexterity is a huge protection for your job right now.
Okay, so that leaves the third player, the agents. This feels like where the real disruption is happening right now. What makes an agent different from just, the software we were using a few years ago?
This is the critical piece. It's the jump from following rules to simulating reasoning. An old Excel macro, it just follows a script. If one thing is out of place, it crashes. An agent gets a goal, like update this legacy software, and it has to figure out the steps, write the code, test its own work, and learn from the errors. It handles that non-physical cognitive work.
The report had a case study about a bank that really made this click for me. Because it wasn't just, we used AI, it was the whole structure of how they did it.
Oh, that's the perfect example of the partnership model.
Yeah.
So this bank has this mountain of old legacy code, the stuff that runs their core systems.
A nightmare to update. You just picture developers locked in a room for 6 months with pizza boxes.
The brute force method, exactly.
Right.
Instead, they used a team of agents. They had an assessment agent to just map the old code,
Yeah.
and a coding agent to translate it to a new language,
Yeah.
and a testing agent to check the work.
And the humans, they weren't just on vacation.
No, but their job totally changed. They weren't writing syntax. They became architects. They set the rules, they defined the goal, and this is the key, they validated the output.
And the result was, what, something like a 50% reduction in hours?
50% reduction in human hours with 70% code accuracy from the agents.
I want to pause on that 70% because that means 30% of it was wrong.
Correct. And that is why the human is still essential. The humans bridged that final 30%. The developers went from being like bricklayers, putting down lines of code, to being site foremen, inspecting the work, ensuring it's solid.
They stopped doing the coding and started orchestrating it.
That's the word, orchestrating.
That word keeps coming up, and I want to understand what it means for different jobs, because not everyone's a software developer. The report breaks down, 800 occupations into 7 archetypes?
Yeah, it's a spectrum of exposure, a way for you to see where your job might fit.
So who's the safest? Who falls into that people-centric group?
That's about 34% of the workforce. Think registered nurses, firefighters, psychologists. Jobs where the main product is empathy or physical skill in a chaotic environment or just complex social interaction.
The stuff that needs a human touch.
Literally.
Yeah.
The report is very clear.
Right.
You cannot automate the feeling of being cared for. AI might help with the intake forms, but the core job is safe because the humanness is the whole point.
Then you have the hybrids in the middle. Teachers, salespeople.
Right. Technology makes them better, faster, but that human connection is still central.
Okay, but let's swing to the other end of that spectrum. This is where that anxiety we started with feels pretty justified. The agent-centric jobs.
This is the white-collar world. Accountants, financial analysts, copywriters, paralegals. It's about 30% of the workforce.
So jobs that are all about cognitive load,
Mm.
processing data, structured thinking.
Basically, everything an AI agent is designed to do really, really well.
It's so ironic. We spent decades telling people, go to college, get a desk job, you'll be safe from the factory robots. And now this report is saying the desk is actually the most dangerous place to be.
It completely flips the 20th century script. The factory floor is, for now, safer from AI than the corner office. If your entire job is just moving information around on a screen, you're in the blast zone.
So if you're in that bucket, what's the game plan? The report has this skill change index that I found fascinating because it points out this paradox.
The paradox is that as automation goes up, the number of skills you need to do your job is actually going up, not down.
Which feels totally backward.
Yeah.
If the AI is doing the work, shouldn't my job get simpler?
You'd think. But job postings list, on average, 64 distinct skills now. That's up from 54 a decade ago. It's getting more complex because you're not just doing the task. You're managing the tool, and you have to know enough to spot when the tool is wrong.
They break these skills into 3 buckets. This feels like a roadmap for anyone listening who wants to stay relevant.
The first is AI-led skills. This is the stuff you probably shouldn't build your career on anymore. Data entry, basic financial processing, simple coding, high exposure.
So if your value is I can type numbers into a spreadsheet really fast, it's not
Yeah,
great.
you're in the danger zone. That's being handed off to the agent.
Okay, what's bucket 2?
People-led skills, conflict resolution, coaching, negotiation, just reading the room. That has very low exposure. If you're the person who can calm down an angry client, your stock is rising.
And the 3rd bucket, the magic middle.
They call them shared skills. And this is the wild part. A huge 72% of all skills fall in here. Things like communication, problem solving, critical thinking.
But wait a second, agents can communicate, they can solve problems. I mean, I use them to draft emails. Why are these shared?
Because the application of the skill is what changes. An agent can draft an email, sure, but it can't understand the political subtext of who you're sending it to. It doesn't know that Bob in accounting is really sensitive about budget stuff right now, so you need to soften the tone.
So the skill isn't writing the words anymore, it's shaping the message.
Exactly. We're all becoming editors-in-chief. The great work of creation gets shared, but the intent, the strategy, the quality control, that stays human. You provide the prompt and the polish.
Which brings us to the money. The report has this just staggering number, $2.9 trillion. That's the economic value this could unlock by 2030 in the U.S.
It's a massive boost to GDP.
But here's my skepticism, and I think a lot of listeners feel this. If it's so valuable, why does it feel like most companies are just using this stuff to write funny social media posts? Why aren't we seeing this productivity boom yet?
The report calls this the task versus workflow trap. And honestly, this is probably the most important insight in the whole document for any business leader.
Okay, unpack that.
Most companies are doing task automation. They see a single problem, like customer support tickets take too long, so they add a chatbot.
Right.
It's a small gain, maybe saves 10% of someone's time, but it's not transformative.
It's a Band-Aid.
It's a Band-Aid. The $2.9 trillion comes from workflow redesign. That means you don't just give your writer a better spell checker, you change the entire process of how a document even gets made.
Like that pharma company case study, that was about medical writing, which is super high stakes.
Extremely. We're talking clinical study reports for the FDA, thousands of pages. You can't have hallucinations in that.
No.
So this company didn't just tell their writers, hey, use AI. They built a whole agentic workflow. They had one agent to synthesize the raw data, another agent to write the first draft of the narrative, and this is the key, a third agent to validate the text against the data.
And what happened?
Time to a first draft was cut by 60%. But here's the kicker. Errors were actually reduced by 50%.
See, that's the part that's surprising. You'd think more AI means more risk of error, but they found the opposite.
Think about it. A human gets tired checking page 400 of a data table. An agent doesn't. By offloading the boring, repetitive checking, the human writers could focus all their brain power on the high-level scientific argument. That's workflow redesign.
There was another one too, the utility company. That felt very relatable.
Right, customer service, the holy grail.
And again, it wasn't just one chatbot. It was a team.
An agent swarm. They had an authentication agent to verify who you are, an intent agent to figure out what you want, a scheduling agent to book the repair truck, the digital assembly line.
So the humans only jump in when the line gets jammed?
Exactly. And the results are crazy. 40% of calls resolve with no human. Cost per call down 50%. But, and this is huge, customer satisfaction went up because nobody had to wait on hold.
Okay, so if I'm a manager listening to this, I'm thinking about the money, but I'm also thinking this sounds like a management nightmare. How do you manage people plus agents plus robots?
You don't. The report says the old way of managing is over. The monitor manager, the one who walks around checking if you're busy, that person is obsolete.
A micromanager.
Your micromanager is dead. The new manager is an orchestrator of systems.
What does that even look like in a Tuesday morning meeting?
It means you're not asking, did you finish the report? You're asking, did you validate the output from the reporting agent? You're coaching your team on how to ask better questions of the AI. You're managing the logic of the work, not the doing of the work.
It sounds like managers need to get way more technical. You can't bluff your way through that.
You really can't. If you don't understand the tool's limits, you can't manage the person using it. Leaders have to be asking, are we just bolting tech onto our old process, or are we truly transforming it?
I want to touch on the darker side of this before we wrap up,
Yeah.
because all this sounds great for productivity, but the report has a pretty stark warning about inequality.
Yeah, this was the part that really gave me pause. We're seeing the workforce split in two. The demand for these new AI skills, orchestration, prompt engineering, validation, it's exploding. But it's almost all in high-wage sectors.
Finance, tech, professional services.
Exactly. You look at lower-wage sectors, food service, construction, transportation. There is almost zero demand for AI skills in those job postings yet.
So the investment banker gets an AI co-pilot and becomes a super worker, and their value goes up. And the line cook is just still a line cook.
Right. And then, when automation does come for that line cook's job in 10 years, they won't have any of the skills needed to pivot. We risk this future where the high earners just pull away at light speed and everyone else gets left behind.
So much for AI is the great equalizer.
It might be an equalizer within a team, but across the economy, it could be a massive divider. Unless, as the report says, we get really proactive about training. We have to democratize these orchestration skills.
Okay, so pulling it all together. We started with the fear. We've talked about agents, the different job archetypes, the massive potential if you redesign your workflows. What's the one big takeaway for someone listening to this?
I think it's that the future isn't about being replaced. It's about partnership. But it's an active partnership. The tech is here. That 57% number is real. The barrier now isn't technology. It's organizational courage.
It's getting out of that task trap.
It is. And on a personal level, for everyone listening, it's about letting go of the ego of doing.
It's hard. We like doing things. We like checking things off a list.
We do. But here's the challenge for you to think about. Look at your to-do list for tomorrow. Which of those items are you holding on to because it makes you feel busy, even though an agent could do 80% of it in a few seconds? Are you ready to stop doing the work and start orchestrating it? Because that shift in mindset, that's the difference between being promoted and being replaced.
That is a genuinely uncomfortable question. I'm already thinking about my list. Some outlines, some emails I'm probably hoarding.
It's human nature. But the definition of what's valuable work has fundamentally changed.
Well, on that note, I'm going to see if I can find an outline generating agent for our next deep dive. I'd much rather be the editor.
Just remember to validate the...
Always. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you in the next one.